You're listening to One Family, What's God Doing? Where we explore what God's doing in YWAM locations throughout Virginia. We can't wait for you to find out what God's doing today. Welcome back to One Family, What's God Doing? And Dustin, you already know, I've got a question for you. What's God doing in Lynchburg?
Oh, my. He's doing more than I can see.
Yeah.
That's really true. That's honestly God has been moving. One thing is like with the YWAM anyway, things have been progressing pretty fast, and God is just, I would say, like, he's getting things done. We've been getting a lot of furniture, right? I mean, so we got furniture for 4 of our 5 bedrooms. One of the bathrooms are the process of getting finished, which is pretty exciting to see. And God is actually bringing together. We're having a building dedication on March 25, and He's bringing everything to come together for that. So like it's exciting. But it's also nerve wracking. I would say it's both. Again, it's like we're really, Lauren Cunningham wrote a book. His second book was like Daring to Live on the Edge. And in that book, what it's about is trusting God through finances. Trusting Him, like, okay, God, if you call me, make a way. And he has all these stories of how God provided in these crazy scenarios. But really, I honestly have to say that we are living on the edge, and that's it doesn't. I mean, a person who would a person who finds their financial security, you don't make plans unless you have the money. They would go crazy in our scenario. But the reality is that we've had some gifts come in, but we're still trusting God for just for our basic needs. But at the same time, we see it coming. We see things coming along. Another thing is that there's one person I just talked to yesterday. Their story is that, and we're still praying. I don't know if this will work out, but honestly, I think it is. But basically, he's a graduate from Liberty. He after his bachelor's, he ended for a short time. He spent some time in YWAM. He did his DTS in Yosemite. He did his SBS, and Titus. And after that, God called him to come back to Lynchburg, and he came back to Lynchburg. He finished up his master's, and he knew he was called Lynchburg, but then God started telling him to join YWAM, and he didn't know YWAM Lynchburg. Then he found us, and then I shared the vision, and it really resonated with him. So right now he's praying, and that's another thing. One obvious need is we need some like staff living in the base and stuff like that. And if God calls him to actually live at our location, that'd be a huge blessing. So we can see God moving. And there's definitely encouragement. There's some discouragement. Like a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, we found our dog. Dog passed away. And it was a freak accident. And so it's been hard on my family. This dog was a part of our transition, but it's as we grieve, though, I could just tell you this is that it hasn't dampened our vision. I would put it that way. If anything, it's emboldened it. I really honestly believe that we were really called to persevere during the season. And I can see that with, Alonzo and Cloud. I can see that with Susan. We're all got our own little, they're big to us, but they're little in the comparison of who God is. I would put it that way. We all have our own struggles and challenges, and they can seem overwhelming. But I can tell you this, as we press into God, we can see we're just trusting Him for a breakthrough, and He's going to make a way. And so what's God doing? He's moving, and He's making a way. Do we see how everything's going on? No. But with that, I'm okay. I'm okay that because I can trust Him. I can trust Him in the midst of, when I can't see, I trust that He does. When I can't plan or structure things, I know that He's doing that behind the scenes, and we see that happening over and over again. Another thing is that we're about to paint the place. We already have a team of professionals who are wanting to come in and help us, and so things are coming. But again, we're still stretching for more. So
this idea of space has come up in a number of the recent episodes, from you all sharing about God providing this amazing space to Virginia Beach sharing that they lost an amazing space and are searching for another. And what's interesting is when you look in Scripture, Jesus talked about, the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. But then we see in Acts that there are a number of believers that are invited to remain in a space. And so Why is it that sometimes God invites us to have a physical, official space from which to serve rather than just roaming wherever?
Well, I think God does both.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is that the thing is, when you talk about properties, okay, and this is the thing, it's and sometimes we get this all messed up. What I mean by that is a lot of times our identity, like especially like let's just say we have YWAM Lynchburg, but you have another YWAM location. Your identity sometimes gets tied up to the location itself,
Mm-hmm.
and so when God takes that away, uh, the tendency is to like lose, who am I?
Hmm.
Like the lie is I am what I have. I mean, we
Hmm.
can do that on like an individual level if I have a house or finances or an education, but the reality is that we are His children, and so there's times but the truth is God does give us places. He does give us space, and the reason why He gives us space is because He wants us to reach people, and if it facilitates us facilitating the Great Commission, if it facilitates us making disciples of all people, of all nations, if it facilitates that, then God's going to give us a space to get it done. Okay,
Hmm.
but if we get to the place where that gets counterbalanced, what I mean by that is that we're just serving a place and not necessarily the place is serving people, then I can see that sometimes God will take things away from us.
Hmm.
But like, I don't want to speak for Fowler and what they're going through Virginia Beach. I just taught in their DTS, but honestly, I remember when I went there, I went there during a board meeting, and we were praying over like, okay, God, what are you doing? This is like a few months ago, and one thing
Hmm.
is that one thing God just told us. I mean, I felt it, and I think some others felt is like the place they had was too small,
Hmm.
and so God was preparing them for something bigger, and He's going to
Hmm.
open up other doors. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a hard transition. I mean, it's nice if it's way better if, like in that case scenario, is that the other place arrives and there's this nice
Hmm.
transition. But
Right.
like, but it's kind of like it's kind of like like Abraham was like, yeah, I'm going to make you a nation. You're going to go out there and get some land. Where are we going? I'll tell you
Hmm.
later.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and with that said, I mean, like, you know, we're just talking about a segment of a building. I mean, this is a big building; it's 18,000 square feet. But right now, we're just looking at 3,500 square feet.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's stretching. But
Hmm.
to be honest, it's stretching financially and mentally and all that other stuff. But in
Yeah.
reality, it's a gift. I mean,
Yeah.
it's but but this is a if we're going if what God has spoken to us as far as being hosting those from the nations and those going to the nations. That is the word of the Lord. Okay,
Hmm.
if we're going to be hosting them and we're going to create a discipleship community, that's going to require space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so where in other situations is like uh, you know. Maybe something else would be different.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely a shifting going around. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like ultimately the invitation is to recognize that our space that we're invited to be in is in God's presence, and
Yeah.
that any physical building is a bonus if we get it. And typically only for a season. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the history of YWAM Virginia involves many different locations where for a season that was the place. And then God said, now I have something different, or now I have something more. And so
Yeah.
our invitation is to be willing to be content with God's presence being our ultimate home, and anywhere else he invites to be willing to step in obedience like you all are doing. And well, let's say somebody wants to come alongside what y'all are doing. I know one of those ways is they can come and celebrate the dedication of this space.
That's right. On March 25th at 6:30 at 56 9th Street, Lynchburg, Virginia. You're invited. If you're watching this, you're invited. We do
What
have.
about if they're listening? If they're only listening, are they invited too?
Yeah, they're listening too. And like, yeah, so, let me repeat it again. If you're listening, 56
Yeah.
9th Street. We are asking for like reservations, but honestly, if you can't find the reservation, ask a YWAMer in
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, but if you can't, just show up, okay? But honestly, we would love to get a reservation so we can. We do have snacks and stuff we're prepared, and we just want to it help us prepare better.
Yeah.
But yeah, 56 9th Street in Lynchburg, Virginia. Please come 6:30. We do it. We definitely have some people coming from out of state.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people coming from. Of course, Richmond and Washington D.C. I invited other people from North Carolina, Maryland, and
Yeah.
but yeah, you're welcome to. We're dedicating a building, but also what we're honoring those who helped made a way, and we're also actually honestly like in some ways it's not just about the building, but it's also about what God is doing,
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
us. And so we're really just dedicating everything he's done for us and coming forward. So yeah, if you're around, please, you can do that. There's other things like we have a couch coming on this Saturday. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably, we'll have the couch probably by the time this thing is produced.
Yeah.
But it's coming. We have a couch. Yay. It's like
Mm-hmm.
one of those one of we haven't even met him yet, but he heard about us and he's in a different city and he's going to drive next to
Wow.
us. And so and we could definitely use a little more furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, so and volunteers could come in. And of course, if God is speaking to you, what we really need is more than anything, where we need your prayers, intercession, and monthly support.
Yeah.
If God speaks to you, YWAM Lynchburg.org. Scroll down, click give, and you can do a recurring monthly giving. That'd be a huge
Mm-hmm.
blessing. And you might think,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have a lot of money. I mean, I only can afford like maybe $10 a month. Well, just do $10 a month. And, maybe God asked, maybe he challenged you to maybe give 500 a month. Do 500
Yeah.
a month. Obey God, and if God just doesn't, but I would ask if you're listening to this to ask God, am
Mm-hmm.
I supposed to do something? And if anything, just pray that God would make a way for us, and He is, because He's the one He's making. He has made a way, and He is in the process of making a way. And even though we see massive needs in the future, He's going to continue to make a way. And the
Yeah.
question is, are you going to be part of that story? Is that something that you're called to be a part of? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for y'all's dedication. Well, and as we close out, is there a verse that God's been putting on your heart?
For sure, but I mean, before I share the verse,
Ooh.
I just want to say that right now we have a team of so far 9 people who are already inside to go to South Africa in May,
Oh,
Liberty
wow.
students, and so that thing is going, it's moving. We might get a couple more, but yeah, it's exciting that
That's
even though
big.
we started, we're actually already doing international missions. But the
Yeah.
first, go into all the world, right? Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, anyways, a verse I have, it comes out of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9. But he said to me, this is what Paul's having this conversation with the Lord. He says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly in my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with my weakness, insults, hardship, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Now,
Mm.
they're like, well, that doesn't sound too encouraging. I mean, the reason why it doesn't sometimes that we find it very challenging is because we don't like to be in that position.
Yeah.
We don't want to feel vulnerable. If anything, like I would say the way of an American is to be self-sufficient. And
Mhm.
this is a passage just saying like I am weak but the thing is it and what it is also realizing that that is embracing the fact that God calls us to do things that we're not capable of doing by ourselves,
Mhm.
and that's okay. But the truth is, He doesn't want us to do it by ourselves. He wants us to do it with Him. And it's like as we and that's what Paul's leaning in on here is like he says like Christ says my grace is sufficient for you, so there's grace provided to get through that you're feeling insufficient, your weakness. There's grace provided that even though you don't know how you're going to persevere or make it, he goes, for my power is made perfect in weakness. And he says, I am content with weakness, insults, hardship, persecution, and calamities. He's
Mm.
content with that. Can you imagine the kind of verbiage is that? It's like,
Mhm.
content means like, I mean, honestly, like, I honestly, I'm challenged by that because I can tell you, there's definitely times in the past few months I have not felt content.
Right.
I've been, but the reality is like, by learning, but well, one thing it's interesting. So we were talking as a staff the other day, and Susan brought this up, and I had to feel the same. It's like, we know that we need a lot of money. I mean, we know, actually. I mean, we could use, if you gave us $10,000, give it 2 weeks, it's gone, right? And then we, but the reality is like, but we're not really stressed out about it.
Yeah.
We're not really freaking out. We're not feeling overly burdened about it. And the reason why is because we know that, like, this has to be in God's hands. It's not that we got to do what's possible, but we have to trust God. So, like, basically, the thing is what it is relying on His strength and not our own.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying, okay, God, we're doing this with you. We don't have to. It's not like He doesn't even do it for us. He does it with us. That's a beautiful thing. It's like living life with God. And so if you're watching this and maybe you're being challenged with something, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. There's inflation going on. People are, struggling with just, a lot of different things. I mean, praise God, the price of eggs dropped to $2.50. I don't know. It's like, what, 84 cents a year? I'm just saying, like, I don't know what you're facing, what kind of struggle it is. I've had friends recently just pass away from cancer. I've had friends who are struggling with family issues, or family who's like really dealing with medical problems and stuff like that, and really it takes a toll. I mean, those are some. Yeah. It could be finances, it could be family, or maybe you have a child or teenagers having problems, or maybe they're, they could be rebellious, or maybe they have health issues, or you're dealing with aging parents. I don't know what your story is, but I can tell you this: that sometimes in the midst of it, you feel beaten down and weak, and you realize your strength is depleted. And I'm just saying, this is the opportunity to say, okay, Jesus, you said your yoke is easy and your burden's light. Yeah. Take my yoke upon you, and he says, I'll give you rest. Now, that rest is not necessarily a physical rest, but what it is, it's a mental one. And, but it's embracing our weakness and trusting that He has more than enough strength for your situation. And so, that's what I'm embracing for my situation now. And whoever is listening to this, I pray that you would embrace that also. So I'm sorry, I probably took a little longer than I should.
It's a classic Dustin mini sermon, and we love them.
I'm not pastoring a church anymore. I got to preach somewhere.
You never know who needs to hear it. And, here's the good news off of what you're saying is, if your location is in God's presence, if you are recognizing that your place is in God's presence, it makes it easier to step into what you're calling for, even in the moments where you don't feel content. Because when you're in God's presence, you can be at your lowest and God can be enough. And so I want to thank you and your team for being willing to transparently be in this place of God's presence, not knowing what He will do. And when He does something, not knowing where it's going, but being willing to keep following Him. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing, and thank all of you for listening, and not just for listening, but for walking with us as we together, as one family, explore what it means to know God and make Him known. If you'd like to learn more about what God's doing in Virginia, visit us at ywamva.org and join us next week for more stories of God at work.